Welcome to Thrash Talk, the series where I bring in some of the biggest creators in the community, and we talk about how to make the game we love even better. Now, last week we talked about Hockey Ultimate Team with no sleeves, sleeveless gaming, Dude Perfect, whatever you want to call them. And today we're talking with one of the biggest franchise mode creators on the entire platform, TacTix HD. Now, of course, guys, the entire point of this is to get conversation going about franchise mode and really the NHL series as a whole. The hope is to compile a bunch of different ideas, send them into EA, and hopefully see some change with the game at some point. Without further ado, let's bring in the special guest for this week. So today we have TacTix HD, one of the friends of the channel and one of the biggest creators in the entire world of NHL 23. How's it going, Cole?
It's going good. I'm glad to be back on the channel again. Don't have to worry about quick sliding cards this time, so...
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. I play franchise mode. I played franchise mode for 2 decades now, and I think you have as well. The thing is, you're famous because of it, and I haven't been able to play it the last couple of years because I find it incredibly boring. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have you on the channel to talk about franchise mode.
I think that's, yeah, let's get into it then.
All right, so the first thing I want to talk about, and like, I will get my thoughts in here too, but this is more importantly for you. Are you happy with franchise mode? Like, are you okay with where we're at here?
Did you just hit a guitar string or something?
No?
Oh, I swear I heard that. Okay. I might be hearing things. I'd say franchise, I would say I'm satisfied with it. I think it does what it needs to do, but it definitely, like, it has a lot of untapped potential that could be like worked on and made a lot better. But I definitely like seeing the HUT guys and what they think about HUT. I'm definitely not there. I'm satisfied with it. I'm not hating on it, but it could be so much better.
That's fair. And I think the thing is for me, for franchise, is that it's just what has actually changed in the last 5 years for franchise. You know what I mean? Like, I could go play, say, NHL 20 right now and look at the menus and everything. There's not a lot of differences, right? Besides overalls.
Yeah, I guess for franchise, the biggest thing would be I don't know if X Factors would be like a franchise specific thing. I could kind of count that, I guess.
Yeah. The chemistry, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when they added chemistry. I think it was about 3 years ago. Last year, the big thing was like power play.
Strategies, right?
Strategies, yes. Which is like kind of tedious, kind of cool. I'm not like I'd really be curious to know how much it actually affects the sim.
Yeah.
If it does at all, because I might be just wasting my time when I'm around doing that. But yeah, there's like some big features that could be added for sure.
I can tell you now one thing about chemistry. I think that's a complete waste of time. And the reason I say that is that I won back-to-back Stanley Cups with negative chemistry on purpose. When I was doing that thing with sleeves last year, I intentionally had bad chemistry, and the team went on like a tear. I think I won 64 games or something. So clear, like, if I would have screwed with the chemistry, I don't think they would have played any better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like it should. I mean, I'm gonna guess it does matter, but it doesn't matter enough for how much time probably I spend doing it. I think too they have like player role/player fit, and a lot of people think that matters more, but it's not something that's like clearly kind of shown to the user, where chemistry is like quite obvious. So if that's the case, yeah, they definitely could tweak like how they present things to people, so they build their team in a more optimal way.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now we're talking about what they've added and whatnot. So what has to change then? What do you feel right now? We're looking at franchise mode in the next couple of years. What do they need to change and improve to keep us coming back to playing?
Just the number one thing for me, I think most people who play franchise a lot, is just like the AI GMs have to be a lot smarter. They have to be a lot more like rational, like logical in what they do, more realistic, I guess, another way to put it.
Yeah.
For instance, like when you have a good prospect, you shouldn't be just letting him go to free agency. You should be re-signing him, especially when they're re-signing bad ones that could be dropped to free agency. Like, it would make sense if they had max contracts because they had so many good ones, but that's not the case. They're just choosing bad ones over good ones. Sometimes they'll sign 2 elite goalies, like 10 million each. Sometimes they'll do the opposite, not have a single starting goalie when they could have got one in free agency. Just weird moves like that, playing a star player on the 4th line while you have a bad player on the 2nd line. So it's just obvious errors. It's not like, things you could even argue are just like, a coach's decision. It's just clearly like doesn't make sense.
Would you also throw in players' decisions in free agency into that market, where it's like, yeah, I may have only put up 7 points last year in 82 games, but I still want $9 million a year?
Yeah, yes and no. I don't see too much of that
Okay.
anymore, luckily. It's more so like a veteran who actually did perform, but he's like 74 overall, he's aging. He's asking for like as much money as someone like way higher rated and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which I think they did say they're gonna address for the next game.
Okay.
But even still, like what you're saying, like there is a lot of that too, where players who kind of see who else is out there in free agency realize, they're the 30th best forward. If they want to get a contract, they got to lower their price and not wait to
Yeah.
do so till, the end of the summer when kind of all the teams have filled out the roster. And a lot of times, a lot of interest being like guys rot away in free agency because of that.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed too is a lot of teams allowing like restricted free agents to not sign and players just sitting for a full year. I don't know if that's been fixed or addressed, but at the beginning of the year, I noticed it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm not sure if it's like it's potentially. I don't want to like promote my own roster. I'm not sure if it's because of my roster or if it's something they have like tuned. But I've actually noticed it a lot less recently.
Okay.
I would say I'm not even sure about the beginning of this year, but just compared to like NHL 22, 21, you'd always almost have those superstar RFAs not being signed. And then the middle of the summer, you could give them like a cheap qualifying offer, or I should say an offer sheet to try to steal them away.
Yeah.
This year, though, it seems like those guys are available day one because teams haven't, decided where they want to spend their money. But after like a couple weeks of free agency, they're usually not there, which is a good sign. Obviously, it's more realistic.
Okay, that's fair enough. So let me kind of flip something here. We're going to talk about trades really quickly. At the beginning of the year, and I always play franchise at the beginning of the year because I kind of have that itch, right? I haven't played it for a while, and I get to try out all the new bells and whistles. I noticed at the beginning of the year that I could trade Philip Zadina to the Winnipeg Jets for Cole Perfetti and a first, and it would go through every time. It didn't matter what difficulty. I haven't tried that recently, but I could go ahead and hop in the franchise and try it. But do we need smarter GMs when it comes to trades and stuff? Because like something like that should never happen.
Yeah, so for that, I actually wouldn't say it's the GM as much as that's like a ratings issue. If
Okay.
Zadina and Perfetti both had accurate ratings and potentials, then I think that issue would be fixed. So it's something that you could fix with the current GMs. You could also tune like the value of a first round pick. But yeah, like Zadina should definitely be lower rated, lower potential than whatever he was.
Yeah.
And Perfetti should probably have higher potential than whatever he was. I'm not sure. Like, did they both have medium elite when you did that?
They were both medium elite, and Zadina, I believe, was like 3 overall higher.
Yeah, so to still get a first is pretty impressive because, like, the Jets, if they're a bubble team, you'd think that first would have more value.
So I would use the trade finder, and that would be the trade offered to me for Zadina every time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm gonna assume it's something like the Jets needed a top 9 winger, and then so they thought it was worth it. But yeah, so that's something that can be tuned for sure. But I think the biggest thing for that is just if it's accurate ratings potentials, it should get rid of like the majority of those issues. Not all, but
I don't know. I get frustrated with like so when we were growing up, and we're the same age, so I can say this with confidence that when we were growing up, it didn't feel like franchise mode had all of these issues, but I also didn't look for all of these issues. You know what I mean? Playing NHL 2005 or something, I wasn't going in the franchise mode and going, "Oh, this prospect has too much trade value." You know what I mean? I was just playing and having fun.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, I honestly wouldn't even know if they were accurate because I would base my like how good a player is more so probably on the video game than real life when I was a kid.
Yes.
So it's so hard to say. I know like I don't know. I spent a ton of time in franchise as a kid, and like I said, I don't know if they were better back then. I've gone actually onto some older games, and the rating system is quite different, so it's hard to say. Its potential system's different. I think we're in a better spot now than we were then. For the most part, I'd like to hope so at least. Otherwise, like, what have we been doing for the last 20 years? Yeah.
Well, okay, so overalls then, you brought up that point. Are we getting to the point where we should just have a whole overhaul of the overall system?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think it's not. I don't think it needs overhauled. I think they just have to be more. I don't know, just more accurate. I feel like a fourth liner can be in the 70s, doesn't have to be an 80.
Yeah.
Just because a guy has one good year, he shouldn't be pushing 90. I really like a 3-year balanced rating system where it's like you take the kind of the sum of their 3-year performance, and that's
Right.
how you get their ratings. So it's less recency bias. Some people prefer like the other way because it's like there's a game every year, so why not just base on the last year? But
Yeah.
the problem with that is when you have a guy pop off, say this season, he's
Right.
got a really good rating going into next year, and then he's sucking. He already like kind of throws it
Can we
off, and
just?
like
I'm gonna say Tanner Jeannot would be a good example.
yeah, and he didn't even like pop off. But that's a good example. Or say like back in the day of Jonathan Chichu.
Yeah.
You want to avoid situations like that because in regards to the trade value, teams don't value a guy based on 1 year. They'll evaluate him on multiple years, and so that's why. Although I think the rating based on last year is fine for like play now for franchise, it's not fine. And I think franchise should have priority over play now because it matters more.
I mean, I agree. Same with online versus. More people play franchise. More people are playing. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't get this from anyone specific, but I've heard more people are playing franchise than they are majority of other modes in the game, including the ultimate mode.
I mean, yeah, a lot of casual players, like, that's what you're going to play, right?
Yeah.
If I play, say, Madden, which I'm not a huge football guy, I'm basically either playing, like, against a friend or I'm playing franchise, so.
That's absolutely fair. When I play another game that's not NHL, a sports game, the first thing I do is hop in the franchise mode so I can test everything out and I can get a feel for the game. So it does make a lot of sense. So we've talked about a few things here when it comes to franchise mode, but what is something that you think EA should be looking to add in the future for this? And I don't mean like, oh, they should fix this, or they could, like, I want to know what you think they need to, absolutely, this needs to be added. Because at one point it was roster sharing. That's been added in. Now we have custom leagues, whatever the hell that's supposed to be. So what is their next big thing, you think? And if you say GM Connected, I swear to God.
So yeah, you don't want like a fix. You want like an actual feature, essentially?
I want something that you go, okay, I like franchise mode, I'm having a good time, but I wish this was in the game. It would make it so much better.
Okay, so I'll start off with a small thing that, I don't know, it probably doesn't count for you, but a small thing that would be huge is just not having like the black silhouettes for the players, actually having like
the player faces.
Yeah, and they don't have to be, they just have to be like the generated ones, like the coaches, or like the generated ones that fair. FIFA has, Madden has. It just kind of helps when you're like going through a roster 7 years down the road and it's not just all like these black silhouettes.
Yeah.
That's really like annoying to see. For an actual feature, I'd like them to do something with free agency similar to trade deadline, where it's actually like has a kind of a bit of a timer maybe for like the first day of free agency, create some urgency.
Okay.
You can actually be making multiple offers on different guys and then kind of getting their feedback about, X teams offered more. Because like right now, if you say have 10 million in cap space and there's two guys that are worth 10 million each, you can like try and sign one, but if he says no, the other guy will be gone by the time you go to make the offer. Or you can sign both, but if you have preferences, you don't get to like have a preference. You just kind of get to 50-50 toss who says yes to you first.
Yeah.
So like if it had a live timer where you're actually going back and forth with free agencies, or with the free agents, sorry, I think that would fix that.
That'd be pretty
I'm trying
cool.
to think of like I don't know if that counts. Is that like a big enough feature?
I like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Okay. I think people would be excited for that as well. I remember the days, and I miss the days where at trade deadline time we would have the phones. You had the three different.
Yeah, the phones were cool. I think what they have now is still pretty cool too. But the phones were like classic.
Yeah. I like what they have now. As you get closer to the deadline, you do get that sense of urgency, like crap, I have to get a deal done, or this has to happen. I do feel like it's a little cluttered still, right? And I know that they did address a few things this year. One being when you're about to make a trade and you get an offer and it would reset everything for you. That was painful.
Yes, that was really annoying, and luckily they actually fixed that. So
I'm very happy that they fixed that.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to this year, but they did.
Is there anything else that you're super interested in them adding, maybe from a different game or anything like that?
Well, I don't know if this is like franchise, but like the NBA My Eras, where you can kind of go in and play with the 2002 Red Wings.
Okay.
You can make a franchise mode that starts in 1990, and it has all the players for all the teams, and it has, the draft classes for those players. Like, that would be absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, unfortunately, but that'd be super cool.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we can almost say with certainty it won't be happening is because of the NHL Alumni Association and the fact that EA has a contract with them. So a lot of the players are not signed to that Alumni Association. So that's unfortunately, like, we are part of a program. They used to be called Game Changers, whatever the hell we're called now. And we do have some insights when it comes to the game and asking these questions to the developers and people who have the actual answers to these questions. It's not always what we want to hear. Like, I always wanted to see Sergei Fedorov in the game. I'm sure you do too. Let's be honest. Like, why wouldn't we want to see Sergei Fedorov, or why isn't Datsuk in the game, or Pavel Bure? It's literally because they're just not signed to the Alumni Association, and EA has a contract with the AA. So there's nothing that can actually be done about that, and it is an absolute shame.
Yeah, the guy I've always wanted since like they've started introducing Legends was Paul Kariya, and he's never been in it. Yeah. So I just went ahead and made him, which is like the next closest thing. But yeah, it'd be cool enough if he actually had like his face or whatever in there.
Now, this is going to be a controversial topic for a lot of people. I have absolutely no interest in this. A lot of people do. What are your thoughts on them adding GM Connected?
I think GM Connected is like a cool feature. I remember like NHL 14, I was in a couple leagues, like one was a YouTuber league. The issue was like, I don't know how many leagues made it past year 1. And
so there was an article, and I'm sorry to cut you off. There's an article that came out about 6 months ago that has been wiped from the internet, and I cannot find it again. And I'm upset that I can't find it again, because it had some very interesting numbers and a conversation with one of the developers of EA, who I don't believe is with the company anymore. Which may be why that has been wiped and whatnot. But in the article, when they were talking about bringing back GM Connected, one of the reasons was, well, we have to find a way that we get people to actually play it. A lot of people would start leagues, and they would never finish them. And it was something like 8% of all leagues finished a season, and that was it. So if that's the case, is that something that's actually even worth looking into for the future?
Yeah, that's the issue. It's a game mode that's really cool in concept, like all your friends in a franchise making trades together and stuff like that. But the more people you have in it, the harder it is to do, because it means you have like more schedules to fit in where like people aren't busy, can play their games, can be active and stuff like that. Almost like think of like a fantasy league. The more people you have, the harder it is to nail down a time to have your draft. So I do think it'd be cool to bring back. It's just I think there are much more pressing issues for franchise mode and things that like I think even like a casual person would rather a lot of the things I think I've brought up, just making the actual franchise mode experience a lot better first. And then once you have that under wraps and like the actual, core of that mode is in a better spot, then worry about adding GM Connected. I think like, again, just in terms of the hierarchy of, things I need addressed, GM Connected is like not the top for me.
I agree with that. And a lot of people are going to give me crap because I sit there and say I don't care about GM Connected. Personally, I just wouldn't play it. That's just not something that's for me. I don't have the time to do that. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't want them to add it to the game. I think that obviously enough people are asking for it that if it's something that they can develop and make it work properly, add it to the damn game. Make people happy. Hell, they're spending money on the video game. They should be able to play what they want to play. At the same time, I would rather them spend the resources and the time and the effort into actually fixing the rest of the game as opposed to putting in a whole new mode. And I think it's not just me who thinks this way. There's a lot of people. Cole, you may think the same way as I do. But at the end of the day, a lot of people are still calling for GM Connected. And there are people who are saying, I'm not buying the game until you get GM Connected. You may never get it. If I'm being honest, it may never come back, which means you're really missing out on NHL. Are they missing out on anything at this point, though? Here, that's the thing. They're not going to buy the game until GM Connected's here. Are they missing out on anything? Is like NHL 23, 22, 21 like the best one yet? I don't think so. You?
I would say it depends like what you're playing. If you're playing HUT, you're probably not missing out on anything.
No.
If you're playing EASHL, I think there could be an argument you are. If like, I don't know, you have a bunch of friends on another console even you've always wanted to play club with, you can now.
Yeah,
cross console.
Yeah.
Franchise wise, if you had like NHL 22, you're probably not missing out on anything. But if you haven't played the game in at least 3 or 4 years, you definitely are. Like, it's one of those things where it's like every year it's not a lot, but then when you actually look back 4 or 5 years, there is it's a substantial, noticeable difference. I know for you, like you're saying for HUT, that's the one where it's not the case. So, hopefully that gets addressed this year.
That is the problem, and I've already touched on HUT, so I don't want to talk about HUT. Franchise people don't usually care about HUT. In fact, the majority of people, including the developers, don't seem to care about HUT. But that's okay. You know what I mean? We're here talking about franchise. And one last thing I do want to bring up here, and I'm not going to spend the entire we've been live for 20 minutes here. We're talking, having a good time. I'm not going to sit here and have you here for an hour talking about franchise. But is there anything that you specifically want to touch on for the future of franchise mode, whether it be roster sharing being on all 4 platforms or something like that? Before you chime in on that, I do want to say I think that they fumbled the bag hard with roster sharing, and I think it shows by the number of downloads that have been done here in NHL 23 as a total. They are way down. But let me get your thoughts on that.
I mean, yeah, ideally your roster share is like cross-console, because, like, for instance, for me, I put up the video with my roster. The reason I do that is because I know, 3 out of 4 people or whatever can't even download it because they're not on Series X. So at least they can look at it and copy it if they want to. So cross-console for roster share would be huge. I think too with the downloads, a lot of people, if they're casual, they're gonna if they even go over to roster share to bother downloading it, they're gonna download the most downloaded one, which is always the one that comes out at the beginning of the year. So for instance, mine didn't come out till later, so it's a lot harder to kind of get people to know about it. A lot of people aren't gonna look into the good rosters, which I guess that's not the worst thing ever, but yeah, more so it cross-console roster share is huge. Maybe even promoting it as well. EA's if they add it, why not promote creators? Not even like me. I'd say a guy like Snipe and Score who makes these awesome throwback rosters. EA should really be pushing those because it literally just makes their game better, so much better, and it costs them zero work. He's the one that's doing all the hard time and energy. Just promote it a bit, and I think you'd see people downloading it for sure.
I like to think of it as a that's a weird place for my brain to go, and this is completely unedited, so I'm gonna say it, but think of it like Pornhub. Just hear me out here, where you have the hottest, the most viewed, whatever, right? You have the column. So the hottest, the most downloaded over the last few weeks of the newest ones that came out, and you can have a showcase of those rosters. I don't know why whatever came to mind but it was the best way to lay it out, because TikTok doesn't work like that, Instagram doesn't work like that, you know what I mean? Anyways, like I said, unedited. When it comes to roster sharing, I agree with you. They need to have some creator spotlight or some way for us to see, you came out in what? Yours came out after the trade deadline?
Yeah, my second one, yeah.
Yeah. So, how many people are going to know about that unless they've seen your video, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. If we have something like a creator showcase or something where, maybe not even a creator showcase, but new rosters that are brought in that have a creator with a high rating or something that gets pushed to the top, just so other people can see this. Like you mentioned, the guy who makes the old school rosters, that's some of the coolest stuff that you can put in the game, but how many people actually know about it? Now, it would be a lot easier if it was on all 4, and hopefully we can see that next year in NHL 24, but it's getting to the point where they spent a lot of time and resources on this specific new mode, I guess you could say, or a new addition to the game, and less people are even bothering to look at it. Either they're going to fix it, or it's going to go just like Draft Champions did.
Yeah, and I'll say, too, with that, on top of being cross-console to make it more desirable, for instance, mine, so I made the first one before the trade deadline, the second one was after, the second one had, some more prospects, adjusted ratings, stuff like that. The issue is, though, now anyone who uses mine, they don't have, any of the, I put through the trades in the trade deadline, but if a team traded, Patty Kane for a second-round pick, you actually don't have that second-round pick on Chicago. You just lost Patrick Kane. And so it's we're using these, custom rosters that are hopefully more accurate ratings potentials, but we don't have the accurate draft picks because there's literally no way for us to do that. So it almost it's they want us to make these cool rosters, but at the same time, it's they're not giving us the tools to actually make them as good as they can be. It's almost all the hard work's being thrown away after the deadline, which definitely, sucks for someone like me or Tugi.
Yeah, and I'm not someone who's going to make a roster. As weird as this is going to sound, and I know people will give me crap for this, but I don't even care that the players don't look like the players in game. It just doesn't, at no point am I zooming in on their faces and being where is that one scar he's supposed to have that he got in 1998 in a baseball accident? I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm not looking at their faces. I'm more about the competitive side and playing with them, not caring about, the Stanley Cup celebration. At the same time, for the people who do care, it's probably a pretty big deal. There's a lot that EA could do that I feel is small, like you brought up, the headshots, right? That's a small thing. I feel like they could just randomly AI generate some bullcrap, and there you go, right? They do it for the coaches. Why can't they do it for someone else, right? So there's a lot of small things I feel like they can do to improve it. I haven't touched franchise nearly as much in the last few years because I feel like it's super repetitive. But at the end of the day, like, you are someone who plays it too much, and I feel like you gave a lot of great insight today. I'm not going to keep you around here much longer. I'm not going to make people listen to my dumb voice much longer. Cole, thank you for coming over to the channel today.
You know, thanks for having me, dude. It's always fun, and like I said, this time you don't have to discard any cards, so just got to give my opinions and my feedback, and hopefully, hopefully it creates some good discussion in the comment section. People can obviously, hopefully, if they have any good ideas, definitely let them or write them down below, and me and Thrash can hopefully get them to someone's eyes at EA that will do something about it.
That's kind of the whole point of this. You know, I want to bring in a discussion. We do get asked, like, hey, what do you want to see change and what do you want to do? If it's more than just me bringing this up, maybe it'll actually be seen, because, like, I can say with certainty, nothing I've ever said has really done much. And for you, Cole, maybe a couple things, but for the most part, you know, we're just kind of glorified game testers at this point.
You gotta pick and choose your battles, and yeah, if you want something to be added, it's gotta be small, it's gotta be doable, and yeah, it might get in. So yeah.
Guys, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think of this discussion, and if you have any ideas for franchise in the future, let us know. Appreciate you guys checking out this video. Have a great night, and stay frosty.